I didn't think much of it at the time. It was just a slice of pie, day-old cherry, no charge. I wrote a note, tucked it under the plate, and slid it onto table 4 with a tired smile. The man sitting there didn't even look up, just gave a tiny nod, left his usual dollar tip, and walked out into the drizzle like he always did. He'd been coming in for weeks, never said more than a few words, always sat alone, coffee, dry toast, small bill, smaller tip. Everyone called him Ghost Tip, but something about him stuck with me. That night, I used the last of my tips to cover his dessert. The next morning, he came back, not for pie, not even for coffee. And what he brought with him changed my life in a way I still don't fully understand. My name's Maya. I'm 26, and for the past 3 years, I've worked the morning and afternoon shifts at a corner diner on Route 9, the kind of place where the menus are laminated, the ketchup bottles are always sticky, and the regulars come in at the same time every day like clockwork. I never planned on staying in my hometown after high school. I had dreams, graphic design, city life, maybe even a little apartment with sunlight and a cat. But plans change fast when life gets messy. When my mom passed, I became legal guardian to my little brother, Eli. He was 11 at the time, scared, angry, grieving. I was 22 and barely holding it together myself. College became part-time, then on pause. Dreams got replaced by double shifts, overdue rent, and stacks of job applications that never led anywhere. The diner job? It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Tips were enough to scrape by on the good weeks. On the bad ones, I'd come home and cry quietly into the bathroom towel while Eli watched cartoons on the couch. I got good at pretending, smiling for customers who didn't look up, laughing at the same corny jokes from the same table 3, pretending it didn't sting when someone left without tipping. Again. Then there was table 4. He started coming in around February. Older man. Maybe late 70s, maybe older. It was hard to tell. Always dressed the same. Faded slacks, button-down shirt, wool coat even when it wasn't cold. He walked like he carried something heavy. Not physically, but emotionally. He never made conversation. Just pointed at the menu once and never changed his order. Black coffee, dry toast. The other waitresses whispered about him. He's weird, creepy quiet. Always tips $1 no matter what. They started calling him Ghost Tip. A joke, mostly. No one was cruel about it, but no one paid attention either, except me. I noticed how he always sat facing the window, but never looked out. How he always tucked something back into his coat pocket when I brought the check. How his hands trembled just a little when he reached for the sugar. He never looked lost, exactly, just like someone who'd been found and didn't know what to do with that. I never asked his name, never pried, but every time I saw him sitting there, alone, eyes lowered, coffee growing cold, I had this ache in my chest I couldn't shake. Like maybe I knew what it felt like to be invisible in a room full of people. So that night, when we were closing, and there was one last slice of cherry pie left, I paid for it myself. I placed it on his table, along with a note written on a torn receipt slip. It said, "Next slice is on me. I hope today was kind to you." And that was it. No name, no explanation, just kindness for the sake of it. He didn't say a word when he left, just nodded slightly, the same dollar tip under his mug. I cleaned the table like it was just another shift, but the next morning, he came back, not just with coffee, but with something I never could have expected. The next morning started like any other. Coffee brewing, plates clattering, the bell on the diner door jingling just a little too often for my energy level. I was halfway through my shift pouring coffee for a booth of tired contractors when I noticed him again, the old man from table 4. Same seat, same coat, same black coffee. He didn't look at me when I brought the mug, didn't mention the pie, didn't say a single word about the note. For a moment, I wondered if he even got it. Maybe he threw it away. Maybe he thought it was a mistake. Maybe I was just a silly girl projecting meaning onto someone who'd rather be left alone. So I said nothing. I walked away and busied myself with the morning rush. But when I came back to clear his table, he was already gone. No nod this time, no eye contact, no thank you. Just the usual coffee ring on the table, the crumpled napkin, and something else. Tucked under the sugar jar, folded neatly and out of place, was a small white envelope. At first I thought it was a forgotten bill, but when I picked it up, I felt the weight of it, not just paper. Money. I opened it slowly, confused, and found $200 in cash. Crisp bills, clean, carefully stacked, and beneath them, a note. Not a long one. Just 3 lines, written in looping, elegant handwriting. Someone saw me today. That matters more than you know. Thank you. That's it. No name, no return address. Just gratitude and a gift. I stood there in shock. I wasn't supposed to take that kind of tip. It broke every diner rule. But something in me knew this wasn't about money. This was about being seen, about one quiet, overlooked man whose life had narrowed to a routine of toast and coffee and silence, and one moment where someone acknowledged he was still here. I showed the note to no one. I tucked the envelope into my apron, wiped down table 4 with steady hands, and told myself it was a one-time thing. But it wasn't, because that afternoon, he came back, not alone. And what happened next didn't feel real, not then, and not for a long time after. The afternoon lull had just begun, that strange in-between time after the lunch rush, when the diner goes quiet and the sun hits the windows in a way that makes everything look softer. I was refilling salt shakers behind the counter when I saw a shadow pause outside the glass door. Then the bell chimed, and there he was again. Table 4. But this time he didn't walk in alone. With him was a tall woman in her early 40s, sleek black coat, pressed slacks, not a hair out of place. She walked like someone used to being taken seriously, like someone who didn't show up at diners without a reason. She smiled at me, not politely, directly. "Maya, right?" I blinked. "Yes, can I help you?" The old man was quiet. He gave me that same faint nod, then looked down at the floor like this part wasn't his idea. The woman stepped forward and held out a business card. "I'm Angela Levin. I work with Mr. Grady. May we sit down for a moment?" Mr. Grady. It was the first time I'd heard his name. She gestured to an empty booth, not his usual table. Something about that felt important. I followed them, unsure what was happening. She let him sit first, then turned to me and placed a slim envelope on the table. "This isn't a job offer," she said. "It's something more personal than that." I didn't touch the envelope. I looked at him. He finally met my eyes. "Most people treat me like furniture," he said. His voice was soft, slightly gravelly. "You didn't." He looked down again. "You left me a note. You saw me." Angela picked up from there. "Mr. Grady has been doing something unusual these past few years. He visits places, watches. Not in a creepy way, I promise." She smiled faintly. "He lost someone very close to him. His daughter. She was your age. Her name was Elise." Since her death, he's quietly made a habit of helping people who remind him of her, but only when they show a certain heart. I sat still, speechless. She pushed the envelope toward me. He wants to help you, Maya, not because you need saving, but because you didn't wait to be asked before you gave someone else kindness. I opened it. Inside, a check for $10,000 and another handwritten note for the girl who paid for my pie when she couldn't afford her own rent. My throat tightened. I can't accept this, I whispered. This is too much. Angela smiled gently. It's already yours. Mr. Grady finally looked up. It won't fix everything, but maybe it'll give you room to breathe. I didn't cry until they left. Didn't cry when they stood, shook my hand, and walked back out into the autumn light. Didn't cry when he gave me one last nod, like he was handing me something invisible and precious. But once the door closed and the bell stopped ringing, I sat in that booth and let it all out, because someone had seen me and decided I was worth changing a life for. I didn't deposit the check right away. I kept it in a book on my nightstand, tucked between pages I hadn't touched in years. I'd take it out sometimes just to look at it, not for the number, but for the note. For the girl who paid for my pie when she couldn't afford her own rent. He had seen me more clearly than people I'd known for years. That scared me, but it also made me wonder, who was he really? A week later, I gathered the courage to ask Angela. She met me for coffee one town over, in a quiet cafe with frosted windows and too many plants. She brought a manila folder, slid it across the table without a word. Inside were clippings, photos, and a few letters. Walter Grady, once a literature professor at a prestigious university, published author, widower, father. 10 years ago, his daughter Elise was driving home from grad school late at night. A drunk driver ran a red light. She died instantly. Walter lost everything in a blink. He took early retirement, sold their house, started driving, not to escape, but to feel closer to her. Angela was his longtime family attorney, turned confidant. She helped him manage what became his silent mission. Quiet generosity in Elise's memory. No press, no foundations, just watching, noticing, and responding when someone reminded him of his daughter. He doesn't like being thanked, Angela said, stirring her tea. He likes seeing people use the help. That's enough for him. She paused, then added, You were the first person in 5 years to write him a note. That night, I went back to the diner after hours. I sat at table 4, his table, his chair. I didn't touch the coffee. I just wrote him something new. Dear Mr. Grady, your daughter must have been extraordinary. I'll never stop earning what you saw in me. Thank you for reminding me that quiet kindness matters most. I left it under the sugar jar. He never acknowledged it, never said a word. But the next time he came in, he didn't sit at table 4. He sat next to me, and for the first time we talked. Not about grief, not about money, not even about the pie, just books, childhood stories, why he still used a flip phone. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. I deposited the check a few days later. Not because I was ready, but because I knew what I needed to do. I paid off the overdue rent, got Eli a new pair of shoes, fixed the leak in our ceiling. I didn't touch the rest. Not yet. Because Mr. Grady hadn't just given me money. He'd handed me time, space, breathing room, and a chance to ask, what now? He kept coming to the diner, not daily, just often enough that his absence would have been noticed. We stopped calling him Ghost Tip He became Walter. He still ordered coffee, still sat near the window, but now he brought a book with him, always something dog-eared and underlined, and sometimes left it behind for me with a sticky note that said, "You'd like this one." I always did. 3 months later, he asked me to meet him and Angela again, this time at a small office space across town. Inside were 2 desks, an empty bookshelf, and a plaque waiting to be mounted. The Elise Grady Fund for Working Students. He looked at me, hands in his pockets, and said, "I don't have much time left, but you do. I'd like your help making sure this outlives both of us." I didn't say yes right away. I sat with it, thought about the weight of it, and then I realized he wasn't asking me to run it. He was asking me to carry it forward, to be the next person who notices the waitress skipping lunch, the student who pays attention to someone invisible, the girl who still believes kindness is its own kind of currency. So I said yes. Now I work part-time at the diner and part-time at the fund. We've helped 12 students so far. 2 graduated. 1 started her own bakery. Another's studying nursing. Says she wants to work in trauma care. And every Friday, Walter still comes in. Still sits by the window. We don't say much. We don't need to. Because sometimes a slice of pie is enough to change a life. You never know who's sitting in front of you, who they've lost, what they've survived, or what they still have left to give. I gave a man dessert one night, and in return, he gave me my future. Not because I asked, but because I looked at him and saw a person worth seeing.